Hi guys, my name is Julie. Right off the bat, I'm just gonna say my Instagram is at miss_sired. I have been editing for about 3, almost 4 years now, and I recently hit 10K, so thank you guys so much for that. And as part of that, I wondered how I could give back to all of the people who follow me, and I decided to start a YouTube page for tutorials regarding editing. So a lot of people responded and said they were just starting out editing and that they didn't know where to start, because I'll admit that the editing world is not exactly intuitive.
Yeah, hello, 911?
So I thought that today I would go over the basics of After Effects. So here you can see this is like your workspace. Meaning that any video or clip that you drag into the program of After Effects will show on the screen. So when you first start, we're going to say new composition. And what pops up is that here is the width and the height of your video. So a regular program file for an edit would be about 1920 by 1080. Now that is the rectangular edit that you usually see. If you want a square edit, it's 1080 by 1080. And then if you want an elongated like IGTV, it's 1080 by 1350. But for now, we're gonna do 1920 by 1080. And then you can see here the frame rate is 59.94. That's what I work at. Usually people do 29.97. But just for right now, I'm going to do what I usually do, which is 59.94. And then over here you can see the duration is 34 seconds. I'm just going to make it a little bit longer. I'm going to type in 1 minute and 34 seconds just so we have a nice long timeline. This is probably looking a bit more familiar if you've ever watched any other like After Effects tutorial. So this is like your workspace or your preview space. On the left, under project, is where if you upload any single video, clip, image, audio, anything, it's going to show up right here under composition 1. And right down here, this is your timeline. When I typed in duration, 1 minute, 34 seconds, this is what I was adjusting, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. So the reason that I'm uploading that video file is that I don't put clips together in After Effects. I think that it is a lot harder. So my first step to editing is that I use Sony Vegas Pro 15. I upload all of my episodes and I cut my audio, my voiceovers, and my clips in Sony Vegas Pro. I render them all together and I make what is called a base. A base is a bunch of video files put together on beat with the song that I'm using without any transitions or effects. So let me just show you what that looks like now. So you can see that I've dragged it from my project section down to my timeline, and now you can see down here it says break up, Veronica. Here you can see if you drag through, these are just my clips. Let's just run through the basics of what we're looking at right now. Composition, if you want to change the composition settings, it's the same as what popped up in the beginning. So if you ever want to go back to that, let's say like I decide that I don't want to do a rectangle video and I want to do a square. I just change the width to 1080p, I press OK, and suddenly it's a square. And then right underneath all of that is our toolbar. Your toolbar is pretty important, and right now I have it on the selection tool, meaning that I just have it kind of like a cursor. Wherever I point, that's where my cursor is going to move. So next to it, you have the hand tool, and this just means that I can drag my video anywhere in the workspace I want. There's also the magnifying tool, which is pretty self-explanatory. This one, it's called a masking tool. If I click on my file and I click on the masking tool, I can now cut my file in half, or you can make whatever shape you want. Drag this way. And then my mask shows underneath my video file. So I'm just going to delete that just to make it a little more simple. Next is the pen tool. That's similar to the rectangular masking tool, but it's just more precise. So let's say you don't just want to make a rectangle and you want to like outline their features. That's when you would use the pen tool. Next is text. So again, make a box and then I can just type in, "Hi guys." And now I have text. And then that becomes a new layer in your workspace. So one thing that you should get used to is that every single thing is a new layer. So anytime you import a different overlay or a different text, it shows up in your workspace as 2 different layers. Next, I'm gonna go over to the right. So what this is basically you have your effects. Now these are all the things like glows, coloring. Anytime that you hear about a plugin, that's where it pops up. So right now you can see BCC. That is a very popular plugin, usually for blurs or glows. And if you just type into the bar, let's do BCC glow, and then it just pops up. There are also some effects that just naturally come with After Effects, but plugins like BCCs and Sapphire and Twixtor don't come with the program. So you would have to download those separately. And I'm gonna include a link in the description down below if you would like to download those plugins or if you would like to download After Effects. So the next important thing besides effects in this column is preview. So let's say that I want to watch my edit in entirety. You can press the play button, and at first you can see it's going really, really slow because the program is trying to render the clip exactly how it's made right now. But eventually it'll speed up the more you play it after it's loaded fully. Another way to do that, you can see I have a shortcut for a spacebar. And I can go to the beginning, move my cursor, and press spacebar on my computer, and it would play exactly the same. Underneath, you have cache before playback. If you have it checked, you would like the whole video file to render before it plays. But if you uncheck it, then that means that you just want it to play in real time. So when you do play it like that and it's not fully loaded, it might sound a little demonic, like it might seem like this demon is singing the song. That's just how it is when it loads. And this is like a trick that I do just to make sure that it's not doing that. What I do is I upload 2 project files. So on the first one, I turn off the sound. That's the one where I add effects and a bunch of other things that slow the rendering down and the loading. And then on the bottom, I turn the video off so it's just sound. That way, when I play my video clip, I feel like it goes a lot smoother with the music, and that's just a trick that I do. So let me show you how to add an effect to your video file. So let's just do one that I normally do, which is like a glow. Let's do Sapphire Glow. So you can see that you drag it from your effects and put it on to your video file. Now on the left under effect, this is where all of the things that you can manipulate are. And now the way that you manipulate things in After Effects is you make keyframes. All of the little circles, that is called a keyframe. Now if I click on it and I hit this cursor right here and go to S-Glow, you can see that I've made a little diamond-shaped keyframe, and right now I'm telling the video clip to have a brightness of 2. But I don't want that brightness to be throughout, so let me make another keyframe and let me type in 0. Now you can see that there are 2 keyframes, and so basically you're telling the program to go from a huge brightness to a lower brightness. And if you play it, you can see that it slowly decreases. And now, this is essential to making transitions. If you drag over your keyframes, a right click, easy ease. And what this does is it manipulates the graph. So if you click on one of the keyframes and this little button right here, it's called Graph Editor, you can see this very complicated graph part. Graphing is very difficult. It's something that takes a lot of time to really understand. So I'm not going to get too into it in this video. I probably will make another one about it and about simple transitions in After Effects. But right now, you can see that like you can drag it outwards, you can drag it this way. But basically this is how you manipulate the speed and the smoothness of the effect that you added. And now I'm gonna get into a few things that you can do on your keyboard to manipulate the video files. And I said that I cut all of my clips in SVP, but now it is one continuous file. And in order to make transitions, I need to cut the file into its separate parts. So if I go to preview and I go forward a little bit, and you can see right here, it becomes a new clip, and that's where I want to have my transition. So the way that I cut it is Control-Shift-D. And you can see now that those are two separate video files. And now I just do that for all of the clips that I put together. That way it is easy for me to import effects and transitions to my clips. Another keyboard trick that you can do, just like in Microsoft or Google Docs, Control-C and then Control-V, those still apply. And again, if you want to move any of them, just drag it. And then if you go down in the arrows, there's Transform, which is a type of transition. I personally don't use that, but basically what it does is, let me just show you on this clip. And again, you can see that Transform is here. So this is a type of transition, and if you would like to change the position, up, down, left and right, like this, or you can use scale, forward and backward, or rotation, or opacity, so you can make it like 50% to lower the brightness. But basically this is like the basics of a transition, and you would make keyframes in order to make those transitions. Just to let you know, I use Blur Mo Curves, or BMC, which is what a lot of editors use. I think I did a poll one time because I was like, I honestly don't know which is smoother, Transform or BMC, and I got like dead 50% for each. I was like, great, so helpful. So this is just one of the ways that you can do transitions. Now to the right, this is where it gets into certain effects that you can add. This is called motion blur. This is probably the most important part of making smooth transitions, and I feel like every editor like unanimously uses motion blur in all their transitions and all their clips. So when I start editing, I just click it for everything. Because basically it adds a little bit of blur to the end of your clip, so any sort of motion, it just makes it a little smoother, and without it, it's gonna look a bit choppy, so I just add it to everything. And then here is how you get into 3D. So if you now go to the arrow under your clip, under Transform, there is now a whole bunch of other options, which is X rotation. You can see that it's flipping over the x-axis, and then the y rotation, it's flipping over the y-axis, and then Z rotation, which is kind of like a normal rotation. And that's how you get into like the edits that you see with crazy 3D effects. I don't normally do that. The most I'll do is like a little X flip or something, but that's also included underneath. And if you don't want it there anymore, you can just click them out. And I think for now, that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. Again, it is at Miss Sired. Let me know how you like this video, if there's anything you want me to add, and also please subscribe. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye.